Spelling of exemplary versus that of example. According to Etymonline. Example. From Old French exemple, sample, model, example, precedent, cautionary tale, from Latin exemplum, a sample, specimen, from ex, out, cx, plus a mere by, originally, take, from pi root asterisk m, to take, distribute. Exemplary. 1580s, fit to be an example, from Middle French exemplaire, from Late Latin exemplaris, that serves as an example, pattern, or motto, from exemplum, example, pattern, model. Given that both terms derive from French exemple, exemplaire, how come that example, unlike exemplary, is spelled with an a after the prefix x and not with an e?
Fairly early on in French, the nasal vowel represented by n/m merged into the nasal vowel represented by n/m. The exact details of how the merger developed seem to be fairly complicated, but as far as I can tell, it was in progress by the time the word example entered English and had already affected the spelling of the word in relevant varieties of French, and so English adopted the word with a rather than with e. If Pop Demon suit s answer to a relevant question on French essay, why are and n pronounced the same? Pourquoi and etymology law mean pronunciation, links to the blog post Law Nasalization by G. Pascourt, which says that the change em is greater than am occurred around the 11th to 13th centuries. The blog post presents it as part of a general set of changes involving nasal vowels receiving a more open pronunciation, like on is greater than on, in is greater than n, and un is greater than oen. A relevant book accessed through Google Books, The Formation and Evolution of the French Nasal Vowels, by Bernard L. Rochet, 1976, says, in Old French, with the exception of Picard, n and n seem to have been in the process of merging. The extent of the merger varied according to the regions and probably also to the social classes of the speakers. This sociological conditioning of the evolution of on does not receive any direct empirical support from Old French text but is inferred from the situation described by the 16th century grammarians. Peak 87. I haven't found a source yet that connects this sound change to the variation in the spelling of the French word example/exemplar, but I assume that is what is behind it. Rochet mentions some other words that showed variation between spellings with n/m and spellings with n/am, including one that is related to another pair of words showing an m/m change that we see in present-day English, ambassador versus embassy. The numerous orthographic variants found at that period, the 16th century, indicate that whatever distinctions, based on the opposition n and were still observed, they were only the remnants of a rapidly disappearing situation. Thus, Robert Estienne, 1549, acknowledges the following alternations: Crevanta ou creventa, ambassade et ambassade, tensa, voya stanza, panza on malode, voya pensa, etc. p. 96. Interestingly, for ambassade the spelling with a seems to be closer to the etymology, the opposite of the situation with example.
Given that both terms derive from French exemple, exemplaire, how come that example, unlike exemplary, is spelled with an a after the prefix x, and not with an e? Oh, that's easy. Because Etymonline is frequently wrong, as in this case. Example derives from Anglo-Norman exemple, not directly from French exemple or Latin exemplum. The OED lists 26 attested variant spellings, only 5 of which involve correction to the French or Latin vowel. Exemplary came directly from Latin exemplaris, the adjectival form of exemplum. For the Rochet source cited by Sumelik, the full conflation of the nasal French vowels occurred by 16th c. After these words are attested in English use, 14th c. The Norman shift was just part of their general dialect of pronunciation of Franco-Latinate terms, one later seen in the rest of France in their merging pronunciations.
If you want to support the channel, please consider liking and subscribing.